Let me ask you something. What if the parts of yourself you hide the most, your jealousy, your anger, your insecurities, are actually the keys to your greatest power? What if the side of you you're most afraid of is the one that's been trying to set you free all along? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Today, we're not just talking about fate. We're talking about your shadow self and how it shows up in each zodiac sign. So let's dive into it. Your zodiac shadow, and how Jung's psychology reveals the truth behind the light and the dark inside all of us. Carl Jung's idea of the shadow self is one of the most fascinating and confronting concepts in psychology. He believed that every person has a shadow, the unconscious side of the psyche that holds the traits, emotions, and impulses we reject or deny. It's the anger we suppress to seem nice, the ambition we hide to appear humble, the pain we bury just to seem strong. But the shadow doesn't disappear when ignored, it grows. It leaks out in jealousy, projection, control, or emotional outbursts. And here's where astrology comes in, because your zodiac sign doesn't just show how you shine, it also shows where your darkness hides. The same fire that gives Aries courage can also make them controlling. The same empathy that gives Pisces compassion can also make them lose themselves completely. So today, we'll explore each zodiac through Jung's idea of the shadow, using the Insight's Discovery color system to make sense of how the light and dark sides dance within us. Part 1. Fiery Reds. The fire signs. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Bold, direct, passionate. The shadow of pride, control, and impulse. Fire signs live from the heart. They burn bright, with passion, energy, and drive. But the same fire that lights up the room can also scorch it. Aries, their shadow shows up as impatience and dominance. Deep down, Aries fears being powerless, so they overcompensate with control. The shadow teaches Aries that true strength isn't in forcing outcomes, but in mastering themselves. Example: that friend who always wants things their way, they're not bossy, they're afraid of being unseen. Leo, the lion's shadow hides behind pride. When their inner child feels unloved, they seek validation through admiration. Jung would say Leo's journey is about integrating humility, learning that their light doesn't need an audience to shine. Example: the Leo who seems confident but crumbles inside when they're ignored. Their shadow whispers, "Am I only worthy when I'm loved?" Sagittarius, their shadow hides behind restlessness. They fear being trapped emotionally or mentally, so they run. But freedom without roots becomes emptiness. Jung would call this the flight from the self. Example: that person who travels endlessly but feels lost wherever they go. Their shadow isn't the world, it's their own avoidance. Fire's lesson? The shadow teaches that true power comes not from being unstoppable, but from knowing when to pause. Part 2. Sunshine Yellows. The air signs. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Playful, fun, social. The shadow of superficiality, indecision, and detachment. Air signs live in their minds, ideas, possibilities, conversations. They understand the world by thinking it through. But their shadow? It hides in emotional avoidance and overthinking. Gemini, their shadow is inconsistency. Jung might say their ego hides behind curiosity, jumping from one idea to another to avoid facing emotional discomfort. Example: that friend who jokes their way out of deep conversations. Their laughter masks what they fear to feel. Libra, the peacemaker's shadow lies in people-pleasing. They fear rejection so deeply that they trade authenticity for approval. Jung would call this the persona trap, when your mask becomes your identity. Example: the Libra who says, "I'm fine," while silently breaking. Their shadow screams for honesty. Aquarius, their shadow hides in emotional distance. They crave connection, yet fear vulnerability. Their mind says, "I'm independent," but their soul whispers, "I'm lonely." Jung would say their task is to integrate their humanity, to be both unique and connected. Example: the Aquarius who preaches love for all, but avoids intimacy. Their shadow hides behind ideals. The air signs lesson? Your shadow teaches that thinking about emotions isn't the same as feeling them. Part 3, Earth Greens. The earth signs: Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Gentle, caring, subtle. The shadow of control, fear, and perfectionism. Earth signs crave stability. They want to feel safe, grounded, and in control. But their shadow often lives in that same need for order. Taurus, their shadow hides in attachment to people, possessions, or comfort. Jung might say they confuse security with stagnation. Their lesson? Learning that peace isn't found in what you own, but in what you accept. Example: the Taurus who won't let go of a relationship that no longer serves them. Their shadow clings to what feels familiar, not what feels right. Asterisk. Virgo, their shadow is perfectionism. They fix and correct as a way to avoid their own sense of inadequacy. Jung would call this projection, healing others to avoid healing yourself. Example: the Virgo who critiques everyone's work, but can't stand feedback. The shadow says, "If I'm perfect, no one can reject me." Capricorn, their shadow hides in overwork and control. They equate worth with success. But when they slow down, they face the uncomfortable question: who am I without my achievements? Jung would call this over-identification with the persona, the career mask. The earth signs lesson? The shadow teaches that control doesn't create safety, surrender does. Part 4, Cool Blues. The water signs: Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Thoughtful, subtle, intelligent. The shadow of possession, fear, and escape. Water signs are the empaths of the Zodiac. They feel deeply, but the same emotional depth can become their prison. Cancer, their shadow is emotional manipulation. Out of fear of abandonment, they sometimes control through care. Jung might say their task is to balance the mother archetype, nurturing without smothering. Example: the Cancer who guilt trips others for not caring enough. Their shadow confuses love with control. Scorpio, their shadow lies in obsession and power. When betrayed, they withhold trust and control through secrecy. Jung saw this as the shadow's revenge, pain becoming protection. Example: the Scorpio who never forgives but says they've moved on. The truth? Their shadow feeds on resentment. Pisces, their shadow is escapism. They numb their pain through fantasy, substances, or martyrdom. Jung would say they're swimming in the unconscious but afraid to surface. Example: the Pisces who keeps rescuing others while ignoring themselves. Their shadow says, "If I save them, I'll feel whole." The water signs lesson? The shadow teaches that feeling deeply doesn't mean drowning. Healing happens when you stay afloat. So what do we learn from all this? Every light has a shadow. Every strength has a cost. And Jung's wisdom reminds us, the goal isn't to kill the shadow, but to befriend it. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. It's the part of you waiting to be seen, loved, and integrated. Because true wholeness isn't found in pretending to be light. It's found in learning to hold your darkness with grace. If this video resonated with you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with someone walking their own path of self-discovery. And if you want to go deeper, get your copy of the Happy Nest Manual, available now on Patreon via the link in our bio. Because in the end, you can't become who you're meant to be until you face the parts of you you've tried to forget.